Alright guys, welcome back to another one. So Naughty Dog just recently unveiled their next big project. After years of secrecy, after finally wrapping up work on The Last of Us Part 2, this has been in development since 2020, it's time to finally figure out what this game is. It's something completely new. No, it is not Uncharted, it is not The Last of Us, it's something completely new. And it's not just a new game, but rather it's a new franchise. So this is going to seemingly be Naughty Dog's focus for the next coming decade, meaning that this will receive multiple installments. It's known as Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, a retro futuristic sci-fi single-player narrative-driven game. So narrative-driven seems like it's going to be kind of in similar vein to that of The Last of Us and Uncharted, but finally we have very much more of a fictional theme going on, and this is something that I've wanted Naughty Dog to do for the longest time, because I've said this once but I'll say it again, it really does seem as if for the past 15 odd years we've been receiving almost the same games from Naughty Dog. Ever since beginning with Uncharted back in 2007 and then getting The Last of Us, this is all we've received from them for almost 20 years, man. It's been like just insane. And I don't dislike Uncharted and I don't dislike The Last of Us. It's just that being such a huge Jak and Daxter fan and a fan of Naughty Dog from the early 2000s, knowing at least what parts of the old team were capable of, to see what they've sort of now become with very much set in a more realistic tone, it's like, man, you guys are just limiting yourself. Why don't you do some fictional stuff, like some real fictional stuff? I know zombies are kind of fictional, but still, you understand what I mean, right? Like, The Last of Us is basically Uncharted with zombies. That's really it. So this is a huge breath of fresh air. To explain the premise of this game real quick, it revolves around a character known as Jordan, played by Tati Gabrielle, an actress known within the film and TV industry. There are also other actors in here, for instance, Tony Dalton from Better Call Saul, as well as Kumail Nanjiani from Silicon Valley. Personally, I never like it when someone's likeness, a real person's likeness, like an actor, is used as a character in a video game. Can you please just come up with your own original character? I kind of find it a little bit cringe. Like, if I had a choice, if I could sit down and say, like, hey, can you change that? I definitely would. Why do we have to use actors and actresses? Like, we see them all the time in TV series and in movies. Just come up with a new original character, please, for the love of God. It seems like a common thing that's happening within video games as well nowadays. Just make your own person. You've got, like, the tools to be able to do that. Why don't you do it? Anyway, I'm going off topic. She's a bounty hunter that is part of a group known as the Five Aces. From what we can point out in the trailer, it looks like she's trying to track down maybe some of the members this bounty hunter group has since disbanded, and it looks like she's specifically trying to find Kumail, who is known as Colin Graves in the game. We can see that she is approaching a planet, and this planet is known as Semperian. It seems like the entire game actually takes place on this planet because it's a planet where no one has managed to leave its orbit for the past 600 years. No one can communicate with anyone that might still be alive on the planet. All communication is blocked. Yeah, weirdness, right? We see a small scene towards the end of the trailer where it looks like she's fighting some kind of robot thing, which is seemingly taking place on the planet itself. So there's not much to take away from the trailer other than, like, the basis of the theme. I like the theme. I think the theme is great. Reminiscent of something like Cowboy Bebop or Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that, you know? It's stuff that we have seen before. It's not unique at all. But with Naughty Dog presentation, ooh yeah, okay, you got me interested. And over what we've been seeing from Naughty Dog for the past, oh my god, how long, I will definitely happily take it. Especially the moment that I saw the character whip out a sword and do this big jump move against the robot, I was like, yes, okay, this looks good. It's looking very different compared to what we've received with Nathan Drake and Joel. So, like, is it going to be a kind of hack and slash type thing? It is explained as being a narrative-driven single-player experience. So, again, in similar vein to what we see in The Last of Us and Uncharted, but a little bit more gameplay-y. Because it's actually mentioned here in the blog post that apparently this game is the deepest Naughty Dog have gone in regards to gameplay. This puts a smile on the crocodile. While I do enjoy Uncharted and The Last of Us, I can confidently say that those games are very much focused on presentation and story, with gameplay taking a backseat. And it's actually through these games that the whole Sony meme exists, where people say Sony games are essentially cinematic movie games. Yeah, Uncharted and The Last of Us are kind of in that category. You play those bad boys though on the hardest difficulty, and yeah, in the combat situations and encounters, it's definitely video gamey, but at its core experience, those games focus so much on presentation and story. That's not a bad thing if you're looking for that kind of thing. What I'm trying to say is, I want Naughty Dog to have a big focus on gameplay. Go back to their roots. Like being a fan of OG Naughty Dog with Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter, it was gameplay first, baby. Nothing but gameplay first. So if you can have that focus while maintaining the modern Naughty Dog presentation, then recipe for success? However, that's the interesting thing. Recipe for success, because the reception towards this game right now isn't exactly too great, man. So the most viewed video of the trailer is uploaded by PlayStation, naturally. And if we look at the like to dislike ratio, it is basically almost divided in half. Oh my god. So you got people that are like, this is cool, I understand it, it's awesome. And you got people that are like, no, this is absolute garbage! This is not what I imagined Naughty Dog's next IP to look like at all, though. The character's head is rounder than the planet. Naughty Dog's excessive focus on DEI has compromised the character's depth and complexity. Sweet baby ink detected. This is the most masculine thing I've ever seen. Neil drunk man, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? He looks like she can defeat 20 men at once while lecturing them about the evils of capitalism. Druckmann is just making his fetish into AAA game at this point. He's really into this type of character. I have been looking into what people have been saying about this game and why there is so much hate surrounding it for the past few hours. I wanted to do some research basically before making this video to just grasp, why are people hating this so much? Number one is Neil Druckmann. So Neil Druckmann is the new creative director of Naughty Dog, and it seems like he's now going to be the big game director of Naughty Dog games going forward. He was the director of The Last of Us, and he received a lot of backlash for Part 2. You might know Part 2 as being one of probably the most overhated games in video game history, because when that game came out, oh my god, the talk of the town was how much people fucking hated it. Whether it be the claims of himself inserting himself into Part 2 with Manny, or the overhating of the character of Abby, which a lot of people at first thought she was a transgender, but she wasn't. She was just a masculine woman. People really targeted and hated Abby, also because she, kills Joel. That doesn't really help for people favoring her, I understand that. Along with other stuff that appears throughout the game. People just had a real problem with it. I think it's insane behavior personally, but each to their own. So, because it's a known thing that he is, once again, the director of this game, a lot of people instantly, without giving it a chance, reading into the information, and watching over this trailer, are like, no, if Neil's behind it, it is simply garbage. Secondly, and I actually do have to agree with this point, product placement. There are 3 instances throughout the trailer where we see very blatant product placement, whether it be the Porsche, spaceship, right at the beginning of the trailer, the Sony stereo system that's within the Porsche, or of course, the Adidas shoes. I think just one helping of product placement would have been fine, and I would have gone with just the Sony stereo system because it makes sense. It's a PlayStation Sony first-party game. It's fine to have Sony-related stuff in there. I mean, they had PlayStations appear throughout The Last of Us. Kind of makes sense. But to then have Adidas and Porsche on top of it, it's like, okay, slow down. Generally, you're playing video games to kind of indulge into a fictional world, and seeing all of these well-known brands and knowing that there was some kind of contract or payouts or something that went on behind the scenes in order to have the certain thing in the game just feels a little bit bleh. Seemingly, PlayStation have some kind of a relationship when it comes to Adidas as well, because we also saw Adidas shoes appear in Spider-Man. So I actually agree with people on this point. I don't really like to see familiar brands and stuff within video games. At first it's like, haha, funny, that's so cool. What the f is Mountain Dew in my video game? Then after a while you're just like, wait, no, this is just a lack of creativity. Could they not come up with their own brand for something or take inspiration from something that already exists? However, it's not a huge deal though, and it's not enough to stop me from playing a game if it's offering fantastic presentation, a great narrative, and engaging gameplay. But the third and probably biggest reason as to why people dislike this game is the whole DEI being forced, the game basically being woke, which we then kind of circle back around to the Neil Druckmann conversation, because a lot of that is why people were pinning so much hate on The Last of Us Part 2, as they were led to believe there was a lot of that being shown in the game itself, especially to do with Liv. A lot of people just disliked the character of Liv because of who Liv is as a person. Now, here's the thing, because I don't want to shoot myself in the foot, and I'm not trying to, like, basically cancel myself at all, but the whole DEI conversation and how it's been forced into video games has been a big thing that sprung up over the past couple of years, because I guess to a certain degree it is becoming quite apparent that certain things from modern day society are starting to get funneled into games without gamers actually wanting it. For the people that stand by those ideas in terms of sexuality and identity, they're obviously all for it, and it's kind of cool to have inclusion towards something that represents you. I fully understand that. It has, though, in recent times been a little bit blatantly obvious that a lot of these ideas, though, are getting put into the game just to be put into the game. When it actually makes sense, I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, fine. Like, I don't mind it being there. And my entire stance on that whole thing is like, hey, if you're happy, I'm happy, all good. It's not for me personally. I don't dip into that thing. I'm very simple, like crackers and cheese, man. But if that's you, you do you, boo. The whole transgender thing has existed for like a long time. It's just over the past kind of few years, it's really sprung out into the open, and people are openly talking about it. With Liv, I didn't have a problem with it at all. It didn't feel forced. Yeah, I suppose you would have a chance to come across someone that is potentially transgender, that identifies as something during the apocalypse, because believe it or not, these people do exist. But then you've got the opposite side of the spectrum, the anti-woke, anti-DEI people that are probably the most self-righteous lot of people I think exist on the modern gaming social media sphere, man. Oh my god, they are insufferable. And most of them are also grifters. Grums is probably the forefront figurehead of this type of community. Just the absolute fucking worst. Man doesn't even play half the video games he's talking about, but will take any opportunity possible to shit on something that might slightly resemble some form of DEI or woke or whatever it might be. So now you've basically got the situation of, if a game has a main character that's a female that is slightly masculine, that might be bold, in this case for Intergalactic, that might have tattoos, then the game is just automatically DEI woke trash. And if the main character lead doesn't have an intergalactic-sized ass with boobs big enough to supply milk to an entire village, instantly
woke DEI garbage.
Why do people care about this so much? I get it if it's this constant thing of like forced, but from what we're seeing of Intergalactic, just from this trailer so far, I don't feel like these ideals are being forced on us at all. Believe it or not, there are females out there that look like this. I mean, the likeness has been taken literally from a person that exists. And the fact that people are spending, like, literally their entire day on Twitter talking about this specific thing, where it absolutely doesn't make sense to talk about just because the female lead is not attractive enough for them, is the most down horrendous, embarrassing use of your time possible. Like, honestly. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not for the whole hyper-focused DEI, blah blah blah, put it in the video game. Then I'm also not like, yo man, if she's chiseled, I don't want to know about it. Like, I don't give a bro. Like, if the game looks good, good story, good gameplay, I'm gonna play it. I don't need every single video game I'm playing to be goon material. Like, I like a nice ass as much as the next guy. It's one of the reasons as to why I like Stellar Blade. Let's just be honest with one another. I mean, if it happens, it happens, and it's a win if it does. But if it's not to the exact liking or the ideal look towards your female main character, like, who gives a man? It's one of those situations of, explain to me that you don't have much going on outside of the sphere of going into comment sections on YouTube, Reddit, and Twitter, without telling me that you don't have much going on outside of the sphere of going into the comment sections of YouTube, Reddit, and Twitter. Personally speaking, I'm excited for this. Like, I don't see much reason to hate it or to just completely write it off straight away. Of course, my opinion might change over time as we learn more about the game, but from what I'm seeing right now, the amount of hate that already exists for this game that's only a few hours old is ludicrous. Like, it just unwarranted ludicrous. And I do feel sorry for the devs that have poured their hearts into this project for the past 4 years, excited to like read the comments about their new game that they just unveiled and siphoning through all of the shit, because there is some shit, dude. I also feel bad for Tati as well, because some of the comments that I've seen specifically towards her are like gross, and again, I know the kind of people that are saying this sort of stuff, man. Clear image in my head as of right now. It's not hard to envision. There's also a lot of Concord comparisons. I think this is like the primary meme to do with the game. Oh look, it's a big single player version of Concord. This is the new Concord. Like, yeah, I get it. They're both sci-fi games, and perhaps it is maybe slightly bad timing. Only a couple months after Sony canceled Concord, this big AAA live service hero shooter, they announced a big AAA narrative-driven single-player sci-fi game. Not great timing. However, just some food for thought. Look, at the end of the day, enjoy what you enjoy, and if you don't enjoy something, move on to something that you do enjoy. Like, it still boggles my mind that people use their time to spew nonsense in comment sections and stuff. It's like, wow, if this is what you're living for, my dude, you really need to like readjust what you're doing with your time. However, I'd be keen to know what you guys think, so be sure to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A big thank you to my wonderful patrons. I appreciate the support. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll talk real soon.